we went off on this ride to happily ever after until I discovered I was actually on the road to hell. Hi, I'm Louise Gallagher. I am many things in this world. Some of them are being a mother, a grandmother, a professional woman in business, in not-for-profit specifically. I'm an artist and a writer. I'm fun. I'm generally very happy. I love to cook. I love to entertain. And I love to do things that make my heart dance. But those are things, and who I am is really deep within me. It's that core essence of my human magnificence. That's who I am. And when I live from that place of magnificence, I create more light in this world. I create light that might inspire others to live from their magnificence, so that together we can illuminate the path for others to follow out of the darkness, because there is a lot of darkness in this world. And we need to shine our lights as bright as we can to ensure that the darkness does not overcome the light. I've learned that the things I do in life aren't the measure of my worth. The measure of my worth is who I am. And I've learned that when I come from a place of openness and trust and love, then the world around me is filled with those things. And my worth is what I bring to the world, not what I do in the world. I believe the responsibility of being an elder is to share the wisdom that I've accumulated on this journey, that I have learned, some of it the hard way. I am an experiential learner, and I used to laugh and say that I'm an experiential learner and I like really big experiences. So which meant, on a certain level, that I believed that to be in love and to have the perfect relationship was important. I also believed that a man would make me happy. And because I believed that my happiness was in the hands of another, I thought Prince Charming really existed and that I would find happily ever after with the right man. And one day, Prince Charming drove up in a red Ferrari, and I got in and we went off on this ride to happily ever after until I discovered I was actually on the road to hell. Now that relationship cost me a lot. Not only did it cost me my sense of self, what I did know of myself, or my self-esteem, my self-worth, it cost me my relationship with my daughters. It cost me my relationship with my family and friends. It cost me my home, my life savings, my job, my everything. It almost cost me my life. Because at the end of it, he had taken me with him when he fled the province because the police were actually after him. And I thought that everyone in my life would be better off without me. But I did not deserve anything other than this man. I had so completely jettisoned every part of me that I became his shill. I was, the fridge that he could go to and open up and just take out what he wanted when he needed it. You couldn't have seen that from the outside because I would just smile my way through and I kept everything locked up. And in fact, during that, it was a 5-year relationship, basically. During that period, I stopped writing completely. I had kept a journal since I was a little girl, and I quit writing, which is a sure sign that I am not walking in esteem. It's a sure sign that I am in the darkness, but I couldn't see it. I was so blind to what was happening to and within me that I simply gave up on me and became what he needed and wanted me to be. Towards the end of the relationship, for 3 months, we were totally off the grid to my family. I did not contact anyone. He told me I couldn't, so I didn't. And because of that, my daughters lived in the fear that one day the police would arrive at the door and tell them that their mother, this woman who had said she loved them more than anything else in the world, was dead. Fortunately, this little miracle drove up one day in a blue and white police car and arrested him, and I got my life back. It was stunning. I was catatonic, actually, at the moment, because I didn't know where I was, basically, who I was, and what I was going to do. But I was about an hour away from where my sister lived, and I finally got up the courage to phone her, and she and her husband came and got me. Now, to say I was broken is actually an understatement. I was broken. I was broke. I had 72 cents in my pocket. I had a few clothes in a suitcase, and I had my golden retriever. I had to not just rebuild my life, I had to reclaim, and I had to figure out, who am I really underneath this ground zero so that I could rise up out of it and shine. For me, the most important piece was to reclaim my relationship with my daughters, because I did not want them to believe that what happened to me was because I didn't love them. What happened to me was because, basically, at the very core of it all, I didn't love myself enough to know that I was enough, with or without a man in my life. I didn't know myself enough to know that my happiness isn't dependent upon someone else. I am 100% accountable for my own happiness. And so I began a journey of healing. And on that journey, I had to also learn, and I did learn, the power of forgiveness. Because ultimately, to heal from that journey and what happened, I had to be able to both forgive him and myself. Because the things that I did that contributed to the decimation of my life and my daughters' lives, I did. He didn't. I did. And whether or not I was abused or he, lied to me, really didn't mean anything to them. Their mother did the things she did. And so I had to learn to forgive myself and to love myself as a mother who deserted her children. I'm really grateful for that journey, because it taught me not only the power of forgiveness and the power of love to always be present regardless of how lost I am. It taught me that I am 100% accountable for my own life. I never shared with anyone what was happening, and yet a couple of friends in particular could see that something was dramatically wrong and knew that I was lost, and they tried to help me. And they gave me advice. They told me, you need to leave him. But I was so lost, I couldn't imagine what would happen to me if I lost him. if I left him. It was just inconceivable to me. And I learned, I was hesitant to take their advice because I didn't believe that I was capable and strong enough and worthy enough to live my own life. And so if I did have advice for someone else, I would say, trust in yourself. Trust in your own gut. Trust in your heart. Often we listen to our head chattering away about what's wrong with us and how, we're no good, or we're not worthy, or we can't do that, or, well, what was wrong with you? Why did you do that? That was so stupid. But the fact is, our head, that critter in our head, is accustomed to overriding the heart. When we listen to our hearts, we sink down from that space of fear, because often that chattering in the head is based on our fear, and fall into that space where our own possibilities, our own strength and courage comes from. When I was in that abusive relationship, I lived in fear every single moment of every day. I was terrified constantly. And because I was listening to the fear and I was acting out of fear, I couldn't be drawn by my courage to step into my own self. I couldn't be drawn by courage to recognize that what was going on was wrong. I used to think it was all about love, but what I realized, it was never about love. It was about abuse, which gave me the courage to hear my heart say, you're not healing from a love affair gone wrong. You're healing from abuse. So don't worry about him. Don't wonder where he is. Don't give any mental space to him. Listen to yourself. Live true to yourself. Trust yourself. I had people always asking me, oh my goodness, so I guess you'll never go in another relationship, or you'll never trust another man again. And I always responded, it has nothing to do with trusting a man, everything to do with trusting myself. Trusting to know that if something doesn't sit right with me, if something is butting up against my values and is causing me to compromise on who I am, then it's not right for me. For me, forgiveness is the gateway to joy, to shining bright, to being present in this world unburdened. What happened with that man, that abuser, wasn't my whole life. It was a 5-year segment of my life. And forgiveness for me meant that letting go of what he did and taking responsibility for what I did to cause others pain, to diminish the joy that they felt and I felt in this world. So one of the things that happened was when I first got out of that abusive relationship, I remember thinking, oh, I'll never forgive myself for what I did for my daughters, to my daughters. But I desperately wanted them to forgive me. And I remember writing this down in my journal one day and thinking, oh, well, there's a contradiction, isn't it? How can I feel worthy of their forgiveness if I don't think I'm worthy of my own forgiveness? I can't have part and not all of it. When I was standing in unforgiveness, it meant that I was also blaming him for the pain that they had. I was holding him accountable for what I did. And until I forgave myself, I couldn't step into 100% accountability for what I did to hurt them. And it allowed me, standing in unforgiveness, it allowed me to go, well, that wasn't my fault. Well, it had nothing to do with fault. It had everything to do with what happened and how they felt and what they needed to help them heal so that we could heal our relationship together. And ultimately, that was the gift. I remember my eldest daughter saying to me one day that forgiveness is like a river. And every time I said, I'm sorry for what I did, I'm sorry that I hurt you so badly, that river of pain became more full with forgiveness. And that forgiveness eventually flowed with love. Because through being accountable, I didn't have to carry the shame of what happened. Through forgiveness, I could let go of the shame, because I felt a lot of shame at the beginning, and then I realized that shame is non-productive. Shame is just a heavy weight, and it just adds to the burden of what happened. So forgiveness allowed me to drop the shame bucket that I carried around. And it allowed my daughters and myself to swim in that river of love freely and joyfully and lovingly. When I stand in love, it doesn't matter what the winds are swirling around me. I can't be, won't be pulled off my course, because I am standing in this strength of believing that love is the answer. It also doesn't mean that I'm just going to abdicate all responsibility to do anything about it, because I think we all have a responsibility to create a better world. I mean, ultimately, life is a journey. And when we can look at our life and everything in it and go, wow, look what I learned from that. I do. I look at that 5 years with that man who was abusive, and I don't hold regret. I don't hold anger or shame or anything other than a sense of it happened, it helped me grow, it helped me claim my true self, it helped me become who I am today.